This is Ryan Truland. I'd like to welcome y'all to episode 7 of Ear to the Canvas. A lot of good stuff going on in the UFC this weekend. We got UFC 250, and then we got a pretty jam-packed schedule moving on after that. Back to regular schedule, which is very, very good. Before I get into anything, I just wanted to thank everybody who's been listening so far to the podcast. I want to thank Eric Nolan for coming on. And I also want to announce that I won't be having any guests on for probably a couple weeks as I try to figure out I just need to get a few things straightened out so I can have better quality when the guests come on. So a couple weeks, we'll go solo for a few episodes, and then we'll get some more cool guests on. So let's get right into it. UFC 250, gonna go up and down the card, talk about some of the fights, break down a few of them. Let's see. Herbert Burns versus Evan Dunham gets off the card. Herbert Burns is, of course, Gilbert Burns' brother. He's 10-2. Gilbert is quite possibly going to be fighting Usman for the welterweight belt pretty soon. That could be happening in July. Then we got Devin Clark versus Alonzo Menefield. That's going to be a good one at light heavyweight. That's the second fight of the night. Those two guys are definitely going to be just button heads in the middle of the octagon. That should be a pretty entertaining one. Then we got Jussier Formiga versus Alex Perez at flyweight. This will be a high-level fight. They're both top 10 guys. Formiga's 23-7. Perez is 23-5. Like all flyweights, they're quick. They don't pack a ton of power with them. Let's see. Formiga is on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Brandon Moreno and then Benavidez the time before that. He did beat Figueiredo, though, who's fighting Benavidez for the vacant flyweight belt. He's got some good wins on his resume. He lost a split decision to Henry Cejudo. That was that was back in 2015. He's been around a while, Formiga, for sure. That won't be a bad fight. Alex Perez, let's see, he's won a couple fights in a row. He lost to Benavidez as well. I think Perez is actually the favorite in that fight. I could be wrong. But if he is, might not be a bad idea to bet the underdog in Formiga. He is ranked higher. He's been around, fought tougher competition. So, going into the prelims, Charles Byrd versus Maki Pitolo. Don't know Pitolo, to be honest with you. Charles Byrd is a Contender Series fighter. Pretty good prospect. That'll be a pretty good fight. Then we moving ahead to Brian Kelleher versus Cody Stamann. That'll be a good one. Kelleher is the underdog, rightfully so. Not a bad underdog to pick, though, if you're a betting guy, if you like to bet. Stamann's 18-2. Stamann has never really struck me as a contender. He's certainly a good fighter. But he's never struck me as a guy who's going to be a real threat to the belt in that division. I think Kelleher can beat him, and I wouldn't be surprised if that goes to decision. And if Kelleher comes out on top, who knows the judges, though. Moving ahead to Ian Heinisch versus Gerald Meerschaert. That'll be a good one. I see a finish in that fight. Heinisch's cornerman, you guys might have saw earlier this week, tested positive, quote-unquote, for coronavirus. It was a false positive. He was going to be removed from the card, but the fight is a go. That fight is happening. Then the featured prelim is Alex Caceres versus Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper is a fan favorite, young prospect. He looks like he's 15 years old. Caceres has been around a while. He's 15-12, but there's no doubt the guy can fight. It'll be Chase Hooper's toughest test. I think Chase will get the job done. He's very long for that division, but that'll be a fun one. Not bad prelims, not bad. Main card is also pretty good. Bantamweight division is really prominent on this card for sure. The bantamweight division is going to be featured a lot, and it starts with Shoulda Show Sean O'Malley versus the veteran Eddie Wineland. That kicks off the main card. I just can't wait. I'm such a huge fan of Sean O'Malley. I think he's going to be a contender in that bantamweight division, and a guy that nobody's going to want to face. Eddie Wineland has been around for a long time. Fought a lot of the top bantamweights over the years. He usually falls short when he fights the elite in that division. I think Sean O'Malley is elite, and I think he's going to put him out in the first or second round. Sean O'Malley's just getting better and better. He's still so young, and he's so fun to watch. Can't wait for that one. Then moving ahead to the next fight, we got Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin. I've watched Anthony Rocco Martin fight several times now. Obviously, I've watched, and a lot of you guys have, Neil Magny a bunch over the years. I don't know. Anthony Rocco Martin's a good fighter. Neil Magny's still good. That's a pretty close fight. I really don't know which way that's going to go. Moving on to the next fight, though. This is the fight of the night right here. On paper, anyway. Corey Sandhagen versus Aljamain Sterling. These are two of the best bantamweights in the world. They could have both... Sterling especially could be fighting for the bantamweight title right now, but it's reported that they're looking to do Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. And Aldo's coming off a loss anyway. But I think it should have been Yan versus Sterling for the vacant bantamweight belt. But hell, we got a good fight anyway. And Yan versus Aldo would be fun. So Corey Sandhagen versus Aljamain Sterling. Both very entertaining fighters. Sterling is so unorthodox. He's good both on the feet and on the ground. And Corey Sandhagen is just so entertaining to watch. He's 5'11" for the 145-pound division. He's beaten John Lineker, Rafael Sunsao. God, this is such a tough fight. I wouldn't bet on this one. I really wouldn't. Such a tough fight to call. Sandhagen's bigger than Sterling is, but Sterling, he looks like he's in incredible shape. Both of them are so motivated too, obviously. I think this one's going to be a war. I think this one's going to be fight of the night. I think it's going to be a decision as well. I think it's going to be a three-round war, and it's going to be a close decision. We'll see how the judges score it. We'll see. Co-main event. Rafael Sunsao versus Cody Garbrandt. Cody is 11-3. A lot of people know how his career has gone. He had the bantamweight title. He got knocked out twice in a row by TJ, and then his last fight he got KO'd by Pedro Munoz. Getting knocked out 3 fights in a row is not good for anybody. It's got to be in the back of his mind. I know he didn't leave his gym, but he trained elsewhere to get out of his comfort zone. I like that. But Rafael Sunsao is a tough customer. He's 27-7. He's also the underdog in this fight. So again, if you bet, not a bad dog. Not a bad dog to pick. Yeah. Can we trust that Cody's not going to get himself into another firefight and get himself put on the canvas? I don't know. I do think we will see a different Cody Garbrandt. If he wants to continue to fight, we're going to have to. He can't be fighting the way he's fought in the past. People said that going into the second TJ fight, and he did. People said that even more going into the Munoz fight, and he did it again. There's no way he's unaware that he has to change his style, and I'm sure he's going to. I'm sure he's not going to run into the fire I think he's going to wait and pick his shots against a Sun Tzu. But a Sun Tzu could very well be Cody. He very well could. Again, not a bad underdog. So before we get to the main event, let's just go back through it a few times, real quick. On the prelims, best fight on paper is probably Kelleher versus Stamen. That'll be a good fight at bantamweight. Then you got Chase Hooper as the featured prelim. Then the main card, you don't want to miss the main card. It kicks off right away with the undefeated Sean O'Malley. One of the most highly touted prospects in the entire UFC. Then we got a decent fight with Magny and Martin. And then the 3 fights after that are just solid fights, especially Sandhagen and Sterling. That's the fight of the night. Then the co-main event, a Sun Tzu versus Cody. Again, a Sun Tzu's an underdog in that one. Not a bad pick. Let's get to the main event. Amanda Nunes, the greatest female fighter of all time, versus her next opponent, Felicia Spencer. Oh, man. Obviously, Nunes is a big favorite. That is to be expected. There's nobody in the UFC that she'll fight where she won't be a pretty big favorite. Spencer, her last fight, she stopped I don't even know who she fought in her last fight, Zara Farn or something. She TKO'd her in the first round. Before that, she went a full 15 minutes with Chris Cyborg. That's impressive. Fight before that, she beat Megan Anderson. She submitted her. That's pretty impressive. But can she get the jump on Amanda Nunes? I don't see it happening. I know Amanda will not just walk over Felicia Spencer. I don't see that happening either. I think Amanda has to be smart, and I think she will be smart. If you remember her last fight, it was against Jermaine Durandamy, and that went the full 25 minutes. It was a pretty competitive fight. But then you go back to her all her fights before that. She had kicked Holly Holm in the face. She knocked her Cyborg out. She TKO'd Raquel Pennington. She beat Valentina Shevchenko. She fucked up Ronda Rousey. Miesha Tate, Shevchenko again. Kat Zingano actually beat her. Wow. Then she finished Jermaine Durandamy. The list goes on and on. There's just it's just not even close to debate who the greatest female fighter of all time is. And I don't think she loses her belt this Saturday. Remember, this is the featherweight. She's a 2-division champ. This is her featherweight belt, the 145-pound belt. And I think she will continue to be double champ after Saturday night. Couple other things that have been in the news. Alexander Gustafsson is back. If you remember, it was last June, about a year ago. He lost to Anthony Smith, which was his second loss in a row. And he told everybody that he was retiring afterwards. And he held true to that until I think it was yesterday, it was announced that yesterday or this morning, that he's going to be moving up. He's coming back and he's moving up to heavyweight. And he's taking on Fabricio Verdum. And I think that's a great move for Gustafsson. I never thought he was done when he announced it last year. He's only 33 years old. He has lost 5 out of his last 8 fights, but it's been against John Jones twice, Rumble Johnson. I think the other one was Cormier, and then Anthony Smith. That's the best of the best in the 205 division. So he's moving up to heavyweight. I like the opponent he's facing too. I think he's going to beat Verdum. If you guys saw Verdum's last fight, it was against Oleksiy Oleinik. And the guy, he's 42 years old and he looked it. He was out 2 years and he looked it. And I don't see how he's going to be much improved. That was only about a month ago. I don't see how he's going to be much improved heading into this fight with Gustafsson. I think Gustafsson is he's obviously going to be faster moving up. The main thing is we'll see if he can take the shot. Because Verdum is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Don't get that twisted. He's got one of the best resumes of any heavyweight in the history of the UFC. But he's 42 now, like I said, and he's a totally different fighter. He just doesn't look the same. So yeah, I think that's a good matchup for Gustafsson, and I think he's gonna start making his way up the heavyweight ranks. I can't wait to see. Of course, he has to beat Verdum, but if he does, I can't wait to see who they match him up against after that, because there are some very interesting matchups in that heavyweight division for him. It should also be noted that Verdum's last fight he weighed in at 243 against Oleinik. I'm very curious to see how heavy Gustafsson gets. He's never fought a heavyweight before. He's always fought a 205. It'll be interesting to see how much he puts on for this fight and how the weight affects him. I'm excited for that. That's going to be on the same card as Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till. And also on that card is Nogueira versus Shogun. So those two fights along with the Gustafsson Verdum fight, that's making for a pretty damn good card. And that's supposedly going to be on Fight Island. Fight Island is supposedly happening. I've seen a couple different dates, either end of June or early July. Fight Island is supposed to be up and running. I can't wait for that. That's going to be wild. I thought they would wait until... I think they should wait until UFC 251 to open it. They should have UFC 251, put a couple title fights on that thing. You could put Usman, Burns, hell, Izzy and Costa could fight on that card. They should go 2 title fights on that card, and then stack it up with other sick fights. Yeah, but other than that, UFC 250 is this weekend. Like I said, good main card, decent prelims. Looking forward to it. If you're betting, I would look at the Formiga Perez fight. I would look at the Kelleher Stamen fight. And I would look at the Assunção Garbrandt fight. If you're a betting man. Yeah, so that's going to be taking place. UFC Apex. That'll be Saturday. Vegas. Pay-per-view on ESPN Plus. So make sure you buy that pay-per-view. It's worth it. It's worth it now. It's going to be a good night of fights. And then after that, like I said, going every week. Fight card every week. The world is... As far as coronavirus is concerned, the world is getting back to normal slowly but surely. Obviously, there are a plethora of other issues going on in the world right now. But as for coronavirus is concerned, we as a world are beating it and opening back up. Sports are back. Sports are back, and the UFC paved the way. Don't get it mistaken. UFC paved the way. Alright, this is Ryan Truland, episode 7. Stay tuned early next week. We'll have a couple episodes out next week. Like I said, solo for a couple weeks, and then we'll get some more guests on. Joe Selecki, who we just had on last week, he just announced last night that he will be back. And he'll be taking on Austin Hubbard, June 20th. Joe Selecki will be back, so stay tuned for that. That's very exciting. That's on Fight Night. Curtis Blades versus Alexander Volkov is the main event in that one. And Selecki will be taking on Hubbard. So stay tuned for that. Like I said, if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on YouTube. As for me, I hope everybody stays safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Alright, let me just take a quick break to tell you guys about our sponsor, Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's an app available to download on your computer, iPhone, or Android, and it's the easiest way to make a podcast. For starters, it's free. Everything's free on Anchor, and it gives you all kinds of tools that allow you to record and edit and create your very own podcast right from your computer or phone. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, man, how do I get my podcast out to the people? Well, Anchor even distributes your podcast on all the biggest platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. You can even profit from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.